Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service, here to present the new moon of June 25th, 2025. I was going to start off with Uranian as I had done with the full moon chart, but I realized that a lot of the information was repeatable in the asteroids. So I'm going to eliminate that for this particular chart. However, before I begin, I want to say that as per my discussions of Uranian, we do have a Mars-Uranus going on. I believe I may have mentioned it in the last full moon. And this Uranus, it actually, the 11th, when I had done that last chart, the chart showed this Uranus-Mars, and I always go on about how I'm affected by these Aries point charts. So I thought I would share with you that on the 12th, the day after this full moon, at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 to 1:30, I had a severe fall, very severe, to the point where I'm still not walking without crutches. So I didn't break anything. Fortunately, I'm in good shape, but I am suffering, and hopefully today I switch from crutches to a boot, and that gives me more freedom of movement, because at my age, working with crutches it's more dangerous really than without. So thought I would share that with you, because if anyone else out there is affected around 15 degrees of fixed, or 16 degrees of fixed, maybe we'll go that far, or if you're anywhere around the Aries point of the 0 degree cardinal, or if you're around 7.5 degrees of mutable, please be careful. This is an extremely dynamic time in astrology. I do a lot of astrology on the side. Besides my own business, I actually listen to astrologers, and it's a really tough time. And one of the factors going on is that we've never been here before. So there's no real relevant cases that we can go back to. And I know I've talked about this before, that we were heading here. Well, we are here, and we're, they say, thigh deep in it. So, you know, we're not the peak yet, but we will be shortly after this new moon as we head into the early first couple weeks of July. So there's a lot of interesting things that show up in this chart, and I want to start with that because, you know, you're going to look at this lineup, and I'm just going to point this out to you right now, where you have Jupiter, the moon, and the sun, all within a degree of each other. The moon and the sun are 4 degrees of Cancer, 7 minutes. Jupiter, 3 degrees of Cancer, 32 minutes. So mathematically, it's right in there, and you're probably all thinking, wow, yay! Don't. Okay, because remember, there are still aspects that are going on around us that are happening because of the Uranian pictures, and things that, let me just see if I can show you one right here, okay, on the dial. So I'm just going to switch here temporarily. You can see I've been working. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see in this dial. It's much easier to see on a 360 dial, which actually I'm not going to bother going into. But we have going on right now, you see Uranus here, and you see Pluto here, okay? Yeah, I guess we could see it on this. Well, if you go between Pluto, where it stands, and Uranus, what you're going to hit is the Aries point. So it's telling us that there are changes, transformations that are going on that we're only going to know later, okay? Remember I talked about the Mars-Uranus, okay? So here's, you know, Mars, Uranus, and the square that can happen between these two, which at this point has already happened, is an accident, okay? It can be an accident. I was really stupid, I do want to say that. Not listening to my inner voice. Boy, if I could tell anybody anything, please listen to the inner voice when it speaks to you. It's real, okay? And I'm kicking myself because I didn't listen to it until after the fact, which was crazy. And the other thing that we're going to be looking for is this Mars Admetus. Do you see that there side by side? Let's see if I can pull them both up. There we are. Okay, so here we are at mutable, about 4 degrees, almost 5 degrees of mutable. Okay, so very important point, very important point. And you see Admetus Mars there, but underneath you see Jupiter, Apollon, and Sun Apollon, and you probably are thinking to yourself, but yeah, doesn't Apollon mean good things like business? And yeah, but really what they're telling you here is a bigger story, and the reason why there's going to be a shutdown. Admetus Mars is the end of something. It shuts down. Okay, now, the other astrologers I listen to, particularly when I listen to Gary's classes, and he's been talking about these charts for months, okay? Because this is a very significant point in history, as he pointed out, never seen before, probably will never be seen again. Something we're going through. The changing of worlds is what the psychics like to refer to this as. And I'm not going to say they're wrong, okay? I think they're very right. As astrologers see it slightly differently, but basically coming up with the same answers. So you say to me, all right, Colleen, why is it so that we have Jupiter and we have Apollon and they're right there with the moon and the sun, and why is that not good? Because it, especially since the node is on the midheaven in the chart. So let's go back and look at that. So I just wanted to show you some of the Uranian on here. It's a little bit easier to see on the 360 dial, which I use in the other program. But I'm sure you got the idea. Okay, so these are ongoing transits. This is one of the reasons why I study Uranian. Ongoing transits are really important. They're very important also to asteroids, because you can go in and do a deeper dive on whatever it is you're studying by just picking up whatever asteroids present themselves at these points. So while I'm talking about, remember it was Mars Admetus, so bear that in mind. With the node in the midheaven, you do look at solar unions. However, are all the unions we have in our life good for us? No, some of them are like, yikes! However, this is what I'm going to tell you. Some of our most difficult relationships can also be the most enlightening relationships. They can teach us the most. They can help us with our karma. They have a purpose. We're going to be encountering that. That's what I think we'd be looking for. You also have this Sun Moon squaring Mars. Okay? So let me tell you a little bit about that. It's anger, people. It's anger. It's anger of the people. We just saw a little bit of that on the 14th. We're not even here yet, which is, although it wasn't angry because I'm a protester. I had to miss this one. My signs went without me because I literally hurt myself 2 days before I was supposed to meet my friends. But my signs did make it. And the idea is that nobody was mad. They were singing, they were chanting. They're doing it because they're taking a stand, okay? So yeah, I guess they're a little angry. Mars squaring Sun is also anger. It's an individual who's angry, okay? But I want to talk more deeply about this Jupiter, and I want to talk about Apollon, because I don't think that we're going to read those correctly. If we're just doing traditional, regular astrology, we'll look at this and go, oh, wow, we've got lots of opportunities for expansion and money, and yet and so on and so forth. And I'm going to be honest with you that, yeah, we're not going to get the opportunities, not the people, particularly not the women. This whole thing is really bad on Venus, okay, which is why other astrologers are talking about her being a morning star, and they talk about the residual underneath angers. And because women are being suppressed. And this isn't just happening here, it's happening everywhere. Everything I'm talking about is worldwide. Okay? But we have some very, very wealthy men. Sun, Apollon, Sun, Jupiter, Apollon. We got some wealthy, wealthy oligarchs who are doing terrible, terrible, terrible things to our world. The governments the Kronos is affiliated with these. Okay, so we got this Kronos Hades. I've talked about it before. Here's the ironic thing. If we were to talk about this ascendant, and because I'm doing Placidus houses, I got a 14-degree Cancer 36-minute ascendant, which means the sun and the moon apply from the 12th house, but it also means that that ascendant for this area. And I did not do this. Let me go back because I want to correct this for DC. Realize I live close to DC, so it won't be a whole lot different. But give me a second. I want to go in and change this just to get it exact. Yeah, as I suspected, it changed it by like a half a degree. I live within 90 minutes of DC. I'm down in that area, you know, not, I won't say very often, but I'm familiar. Let's just say that. So when we look at this, now in DC, the sun and the moon are legitimately in the 12th house, okay? But now where I live, of course I'm dealing with an accident right now, and I want it to be over by the 25th, but I'm already looking at an appointment I'm going to have to cancel on the 24th, which is killing me. But it is what it is. So in my case, yeah, I'm still dealing with it. But let's consider this. In DC, what they have on the ascendant is Kronos and Hades. And that's bad decisions by leaders. It's corruption in leaders. And I'm going to be perfectly frank because money's going to show up a lot in the asteroids again. The corruption is not just in the leaders or the leadership. And when I speak of leadership, I am not just referring to this country. Yes, we have the biggest bozo here. There's no doubt about it. But the idea is that money has infiltrated politics all over the world, and that is going to become increasingly visible to us. And Gary, one of my teachers, thinks it will culminate by the end of August. I'm thinking it begins to make an appearance, though, in June. So if you were not aware, you will be. I'm not saying we're going to be able to do much about it initially. I think that's what happens in August is we realize what's happened, and our attitude is, what do we do now? Because those people don't care about us. This is not like the old days where they felt at least a little remorse for what they've done, and then they do good things like libraries and hospitals and all of that. This group doesn't do that, okay? And so that's the other interesting side factor. So I wanted to talk about just the conditions of the chart before we even proceed. I am going to read them on an individual level, as I always do, but realize that the politics of the situation, and again, if I had if I had my other program up, I would show you this, but across the dial from the fixed 5 degrees fixed, where you have Apollon and Vesta, it equals across the degree to, let me see if I can find it, it's an asteroid. I'm looking for Pallas, really. It's either, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I'm wrong. It's 2 fixed, okay? And it comes to the middle, again, here we go, at that 15 degrees Aries point, which is, here we go, the world point. I can't get away from the world point, guys. I can't stress it enough. And if there's a midpoint that forms at the Aries point, it is as effective as those 2 planets sitting there, okay? Because technically, they are. And so what I'm looking at is I'm looking at politics. I'm looking at enabling. I'm looking at how politics has enabled money, businesses. It's enabled them, okay? And some of them are Vesta, far away. So I believe in my heart, some of this will come out by the end of this month. Okay? What we do about it, I don't know. So much is going to come out before August about the criminal activities, the cheating, the lying. A lot will be out, but it's only beginning now. And I think that that's the real kicker here. When you come down and you see this 24 degrees, 8 minutes of IC, And you know I love to go around the dial and pick out those things that are very close, even if I'm working, in this case, with Placidus. I do it with periphery, I can never say it, but the other house system I use is too, and that's more of an equal house system. Placidus is my favorite, and it is not equal. Here we have, now notice this, okay, so we got Hopi, we got boundaries, we've got attacks, okay, at that midheaven. Now remember, the node is already there. Across the dial, we have beginnings of self-destruction. Okay, so self-destruction is really opposing the asteroid of Hopi, okay, at 25 degrees. This is interesting. That's all I'm going to say. Now, how it will play out in our individual charts, I'm not certain. I suspect a little bit here in the States, it would be those of us who are defending those who cannot speak for themselves, which is why I protest. I believe that it is time, historically, that we finally do this, that we finally stand up for those who've been standing up for themselves and just keep getting turned down. We need to do our part, okay? So it's on us. So, you know, one of the things, you know, they talk about this warrior Venus and everything, but I want to go, just like I did with the Justice, you know, we got this Jupiter kicking off the Saturn and the Neptune as they cross over the Aries point. And that's all happening up in here, by the way. Okay, see there's Saturn at 1 degree. It's crossed over. Neptune, 2 degrees. Okay, so we got Neptune, Saturn. They were initially kicked off by this Jupiter, which is 3 degrees. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay. And I told you that my feeling was that it dealt with the reality of justice or injustice, and how the unjust or the money has led to issues with our systems, and the fact that we don't even know the truth about anything anymore. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to talk about my view on it. And I do see Jupiter as justice, by the way. So I see that Jupiter to the sun, moon as the justice, and it might be the people's justice. We just had the largest protest in the history of this country. 11.5 million people. And I couldn't be there. Anyway, I don't want to think about that. So the reality is that when they protested, what they were expressing was love. Even I go to a protest with the idea I'm going to chant and I'm going to sing. And believe me, I don't sing. Okay, so it's Venus. And who am I going with? My friends. Who do I surround myself with? My friends. So look at Venus a little differently. Okay, so getting back to the Jupiter, which is coming in with Neptune and Saturn, and I kind of go back to that whole idea, and remember the sun and moon are there, that there could be some degree of justice coming. I don't know that we'll see that justice, but we'll know in our hearts. And I don't think that, I think that what will happen to the public, to you, to me, and to our daily lives, that have nothing to do with any of this, because we don't buy politicians. We don't have the money to do things like that. I believe that for us, it will be a time where we might start to see a glimmer of hope. When I found out how big the protests were, I cried, tears of joy. When I found out how miserable the military parade was, I cried, tears of joy. So please bear in mind that one of the things that we're looking at is the dissolution or the dissolving of these structures that may have been set up that were not for us ever. Okay, so big things are happening, big changes are going to be occurring. You know, I did talk about the lessons in life, and I think that one of the biggest things going on right now for us, even on an individual level, is we're really learning lessons that are helping us to evolve our consciousness. When you have Jupiter in the 12th house, that is that. Boom, awareness, aha moments. Oh, wow, I didn't think of it that way. Bam, okay. So that glimmer of hope that, and again, it's a lot of, there's still work going on behind the scenes. I could not be at this protest, but trust me, I was there in spirit, and I did work on a bunch of signs that got taken and used at the protest. So I think, again, that this is about our aha moments, our divine intervention, and, we are sun and moon. It's not just us directly, but it's our people around us, and with the node to the midheaven, our close associations. Now, just really quickly, because I always like to do this, I did already mention that Kronos is on the ascendant. So look to the fathead to make some, arrangements. And sorry if anyone out there likes him. I really couldn't understand anyone, and at this point, I even know some of his voters are questioning his mental acuity. So I do apologize, but understand that I grew up closer to New York, and I was never a fan of that family at all. So here we go. We've got 3 degrees of Leo is cusping that second house, the house of money, and I'm going to tell you that Vulcan sits there. About 30 minutes, no, less than 30 minutes away. And I'm only going to go with right on the degree. So I'm not even going to look at the Shiwa at 2 degrees, 8 minutes. It's just too far, okay? It's out by 30 minutes, 29 minutes. However, Vulcan isn't. Vulcan's in. And Vulcan is destined. It is destined. What is happening had to happen, okay? I mean, this is, those of us who question the election even would have to say, okay, this had to happen. It's a bummer, but it had to happen. I already talked about the beginnings. This is only the beginning, okay? It's literally like, 10, 15 minutes out, this beginning. I'm also going to tell you that it's very close to things that are out of control. Bacchus is what it is, but realize that Bacchus can be anything. It's anything that's out of control. Attacks are out of control. We have people dying in the streets, in their homes, over all that's going on. Attacks. I wish I could tell you that that wasn't going to happen anymore, but this is only the beginning. So please be safe. And what's the beginning of? Well, I don't have to include it in the axis, but I already told you it's the self-destructive actions. I'm going to tell you that you and I and everyone has to be very careful of making fools of themselves, self-destructive actions, humiliation. It's all in the self-expression house, but realize that it's also running with a Kite, which is one of my most favorite asteroids. And that's like having dreams about. It's Alicia, and it's conjuncting Hecate. And Hecate is that wise woman, the goddess of birth and death. There's going to be, I think there's going to be some rude awakenings with regards to our dreams, birth and death. Well, let's talk about the guy who goes and kills people. Literally shoots up 4 people, kills 2 of them, and he's a pro-lifer. He's killing them because they're pro-choice. Whoa, that fits this chart. So I'm not going to say that that's what it's going to mean in your chart, but I want you to look out for it. Who expresses themselves in such a hypocritical manner, and are they humiliating themselves? Hopefully it's not you. The other thing is watch for business at a distance. Watch for problems that are happening at a distance. Watch for things that you remember that happened out a distance. Okay? And it does relate to work partnerships or partnerships that are at a distance. But I'm going to go with work partnerships because I don't know that all of us have work that some of us do. I mean, people who work online often do. But just look out for that. A lot of stuff, and be watchful and careful how you direct yourself because of that expression right there that is in the axis of the 5th and 11th houses. Okay? Jumping now, I can jump all the way to Pluto. Pluto is transformations. What's transforming? Well, I don't have to tell you if you lived in the United States, but please think about this regardless of where you live. Pluto sitting on the 8th is transformations, but it's transformations of partnerships that are transactional because the 8th house is accumulated money, but it's also the death house, okay? So there's transformations going on within partnerships because it's only 4 minutes within that border, okay, that could have to do with combined resources and financial information. Okay, just be aware of that. Please be aware that when it comes to joint finances, none of us really knows everything. And there's a lot of missing information with regards to politics in particular, but also situations where there's combined resources and some people are enabling other people. This is true if you work in a factory. You're going to notice the enabling. Or if you work in a place where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of enabling. There's also going to be attacks, perhaps on who we are, perhaps on what we stand for. Okay, be ready. Handle it well, with love. Do what they were doing at the protest. Every time they were approached by agitators, people would take pictures because that's what we're supposed to do. But the other side of that coin, do not engage. Sing, chant, walk away. The next one is 29 degrees at 49 minutes. I didn't put anything here, okay? Now, victory is 28:18, but remember, 18 minutes is about 30 minutes outside of the orb, so I'm not going to be using it, okay? That could be victory with regards to associates, and you don't discount it, I'm just not going to count it in what I'm doing. And I do believe that brings us to the end of that, okay? Realize that chaos is conjunct Jupiter. Chaos in the form of Eos is going to show up in the asteroids, which I'm going to get to right now, okay? Please be aware that the reason people are getting away with things is they are creating chaos. They will not win. Even the astrologers are pointing out the weaknesses in the charts and the plans moving forward. So there's a lot of transposing or things that reverse out. So just keep following along with the astrologer and your favorite psychics, and I know that you'll be kept in the loop. Now, I want to go through, and we'll go through this on a dial, okay, the axis. So just to point it out, here's your axis. Okay, this is why I keep getting nailed. All right, and then here is your axis, right here. So literally this one came out pretty good. There it is. Okay, so yeah, 2230, right smack on. So those are the axis points that we're going to be talking about. Okay, and I just noticed that there's something up here I do want to look at. So let me grab more paper. Oh. I have so many notes, so many places, so much astrology. Okay, here we go. Abundantia here we go again, stands at the Aries point. So again, it would give you this opportunity to say, well, it can't be that bad. No. Please look at this. There's an abundance of tears connected to this Cupido. That's because this is Cupido here, okay? This is Cupido right here. There's tears connected to our either families connect or it's Cupido here too. I'm very concerned because one of the issues that's happened with this murderous gentleman, believe it or not, that people are afraid might get pardoned, is that he actually is killing family members. He's not just killing the politicians. There's a lot of sadness. It's an abundance of murder, people. And are we getting everything? There's betrayal here. And there is enabling. Okay? These are upsetting charts. And I probably should have said a precursor before I started. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't mean that if you're a good person and you do all the best that you can, all these bad things will hit you. No, I don't think it works like that. But here's what I do think. I do think you got to be careful with your money. I think you have to be careful with your friendships. I think that one of the ways in which we commit suicide, self-destruct, is related to our friends and associates, Venus. However, we could also be surprised by self-destructive behavior of people we know. I don't think this murderer was the only one. So let's talk about this. First of all, one of the things that's in this, let's do the Aries point first, okay, is risk and Sappho. You're taking a risk with some of the bonding that we're doing. Okay, when we go to the protest, we're taking a risk, and that's all Sappho. But how else are we taking risks? Because of our associations. Sappho, our bondings, okay? Risks, okay? Think about that. Tantalus, where are we being tested? Everywhere, really. But Tantalus is temptations and testing. Got to make sure I stay on the right one. Then we have nostalgia academic. Yeah, remember when you could go to college and politics wasn't a part of it? Yeah, it was a time. Nostalgia academia, people thinking about their schooling, remembering schooling, education. Now we get to money. Dolero is running with Ballstrom. Someone who talks incessantly is all about money. All about the money. And then you come down to Dolores, which means things are getting worse with regards to politics and the clever design to make things worse through politics. Someone's going to pay the price for acting. An actor pays the price, or the price of acting. Hippocrates is healthcare, and it's getting worse. Melpomene, there's another, it's getting worse. And again, memories. Memories. Remember this, remember that. And one of the things that might be getting worse for you, those of you who deal with this, and we have this in our own family, is memory issues will get worse. Some people who have problems with memory issues will get worse. Okay? Outside of the Aries point, but it's only 2 minutes, and I wanted to include it because it's so important, is the truth. Truth is retrograde, which means it's eking out. And it may come out in ways, now let's face it, we don't have a mainstream media in our country. I don't know what it's like in other countries. Got to find your own sources, people. You really, really have to find your own sources. And I'm going to be honest with you, EOS is also here, and EOS is the same as chaos. It's scattering of energies. Remember, they're designing politics to scatter our energies. Hebe tells us that it's all about enabling, and Prometheus tells us it's enabling torture. We're going to hear about victims of torture. I think when they're sending and detaining these people, and I'm not going to call them immigrants because they're not, well, maybe they're immigrants, but then I come from an immigrant family, ultimately. We all do. My skin is way too white to be from here. The reality is they're trying to turn it a brown country into a white country. You can't do it. It's a brown country. It's been a brown country. It's always been a brown country. It's still a brown country. But I will say that Prometheus is that some of these people that have been, they've been abused, they've been victimized, and they have been tortured. I think that's going to come out. That's just your Aries point, guys. So that's no matter where you live in the world, you're going to hear these stories. This could be happening in your very own country in a different way. Please be alert. Some countries think they may have just saved themselves, and I think that you did overall. It won't be quite as bad, but you got to understand there's still oligarchs in your politics. I don't care where you live. Now, we're going to get to the sun axis. Now, the sun is about 4 degrees, 7, 8 minutes away, depending on how your software goes. But let's see where ours is, 7, 8. Well, I'm going to go with 8 because that's what's on my paper, okay? What I'm seeing here, okay, and, you know, we go back, is a lot, look at this Hades midheaven. Look at the Chronos node to the Hades midheaven, okay? You know, these are authority figures. So the sun axis could bring up issues with authority figures and literally issues with regards to Hades, which is deterioration, germs, germ warfare, welfare, germ warfare. Let's hope not. It's the deterioration and the destruction of, okay? And look at how it happens. Through chaos. Through Jupiter, through chaos. Throw money at it. Make up a story. Put it on the TV. They'll believe it. Well, at least 10% to 20% of the population might. The rest of us have stopped watching that crap. But there's still that percentage. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at is 4 degrees, 8 minutes of cardinal. 26 degrees, 38 minutes of cardinal. So down here. It's ironic because there's Chiron. And did I say Chiron was in there? Or is yeah, Chiron's actually in the sun-moon axis, okay? Which is the wounded healer, but it also means turning points. It also means a lot of healing through tears. Please bear that in mind. We also are going to be working at 19 right here, 08, fixed. And we're going to be working at 11 up here, 37 of mutable. So I'm going to kind of leave the dial to where it is because it kind of points out everything. So we start off with Chiron, turning points, healing old wounds, but that comes with tears. Pain level is running with Venus. Boy, we are going to be like devastated by money, by our friendships, by people who surprise us by being ugly. That happened to us recently. You know, people that you didn't think were that cruel and hateful. Get ready. You can also tell a lot about a person's health by looking at their faces. So one of the things that's going on right now is that people might be able to almost tell the health of a situation or the health of an individual by simply looking at their faces. Okay, so we're coming along in the world that way. I am going to tell you that chaos is running with the moon and sun, and I think I did mention that already. That is well worth mentioning. Odysseus, which is like people who come from far away are surprised. Pandora, Odysseus. Odysseus represents travelers and surprises Pandora. I think that the other thing is our economy in this country is crashing because we normally have a lot of tourists that are not here. I personally don't blame them. I would not. I've already told people not to come here. Okay, this is not where you want to be right now. They will hold you in detention. What I'm concerned about is that this Odysseus, Pandora, will affect the World Cup. People won't come, and that's going to be devastating. And if it doesn't get fixed, it'll be next year's Olympics. So lots for us to think about here, really, lots for us. Nike is with Achilles. We all have a weakness, okay? But Nike is telling us that we should just do it. Yeah, it's scary to go out there and protest. Yeah, they're telling us not to take our phones, but on the other hand, you got to take pictures, okay? So there's a lot of risk involved with just that small minor thing, but we got to do it, people. We've got to take a stand. Now, for some people, and I've got some people in my life that I work with that I'm going to say are taking stands in their own life. They're either taking a stand with their friends and family, or they're taking a stand amongst their work colleagues. So it is a time to take a stand, even if it feels a little scary. Okay, so then I have to be able to separate these. I'm going to tell you none of this is going to be over quickly. Well, I already told you at the end of August, we actually know more. So I'm just going to shoot that right out there. It is what it is. Albertus Magnus tells us that, and that's such the Aries point, but I skipped it. It's not far away from Banks, which is in the Sun axis. So I missed Albertus Magnus, but I want to point out that that puts big money into both axes. Okay? And then again, you have to ask yourself, how have we enabled that? So I'm going to leave you with that. I wish I could give you all better news, but mostly what I want you to do is be safe. But I also need for you to understand that you're going through your own divine interventions. Psychologically, we are on the shift right now, and many of us are feeling this with lack of sleep, with anxiety that we can't really pinpoint except for to say our world is falling apart. But it's going to be okay. Please know that. But we are still in it. And it won't be until early next year that we really do the sigh of relief. Okay? Because, until then, there's a lot of questioning of what we're going to do. But please be aware this is the beginning. And it's the second time I get to tell you it's the beginning. But there is a psychological shift here. And you people, all of us, need to do our part, no matter how small or insignificant it may be. You need to do your part, whether it's at your work, within your relationships, politically, whatever it is. Do your part, you'll be fine. But know that this is the time to take a stand and just do it. Take the risk. Until we meet again, I wish you only happy readings.